All right. The last time I stood in front of a crowd of this calibre, I did it with my fly down for 3 hours. So I've been very paranoid about checking that. I do want to start by acknowledging the First Nations people of the land that we're joining from today, and also that wherever we're joining from around Australia, that our First Nations people have been the stewards of our unique biodiversity for over 65,000 years and have been caring for the environment in ways that continue to inform and shape modern conservation efforts. And for that, I want to extend my gratitude and respect and extend that to all First Nations people today. So the question that we're addressing, what does it take to save species, feels, I think, disarmingly simple. We only need about $700 billion globally a year and $200 billion for the next, every year after that. I'm kidding, the UN CBD is not kidding when they give us those numbers though. But what does it take to save a species? I think it's quite a philosophical question, but it's also practical, it's institutional, and it's deeply collaborative. So stop for a second and have a look around you. Actually, have a look around you at some of the people that are sitting next to you. We've got some of the brightest minds in conservation and governance in Australia. We've got a lot of the technical tools and the ecological knowledge, the expertise, and more frameworks than you can poke a stick at. So all of the right ingredients to save species. But our progress, I think, is undermined by fragmentation between jurisdictions, between disciplines, and between sectors. And I'm proposing today that we can solve this by combining forces under a one-plan approach. So today I'll reflect on the role of the ACIUCN Centre for Species Survival Australasia, which is a partnership between the ACIUCN Species Survival Commission and the Zoo and Aquarium Association. And the centre exists to administer a one-plan approach to saving species by helping to strengthen and enable coordinated, integrated recovery efforts for threatened species across the region. And I'll tell you a little bit about it now. The Centre for Species Survival works across all of the elements that Vivek mentioned earlier on across the species conservation cycle, assessment, planning, action, networking, and communicating. But critically, we also work between these phases. So many of us focus on monitoring only or planning only or a particular intervention only. The centre links all of these and helps recovery teams and others to transition from assessment to planning or planning to action and all the way back around again. And we do that with support from the Saving Native Species program, so thanks to the Commonwealth for that. But this integrative function, I think, has a really enormous potential in a federated system like Australia's, where authorities and expertise are quite disparate and distributed. And in our work to date across multiple species and recovery teams, including species like the Maugean skate, the orange-bellied parrot, the northern bettong, and others, we've seen that without these connection points, planning efforts are often duplicated, they're repeated, data are duplicated, and energy is lost in administrative function. So our role is not, as the Centre for Species Survival, is not to step on anyone's toes, it's to break down barriers, to take away hurdles, and to connect the right people and support practitioners working across this cycle so that they can focus on what they do best, and that's species recovery. And in our work, it's become evident to me, at least, that sometimes the language that we use, words like in situ or ex situ, captive versus wild, can inadvertently harden boundaries that prevent us from really having and achieving a truly one-plan approach. It gets in the way of species recovery. So most recovery trajectories today aren't linear and they're not confined to one type of intervention. Saving species, as we know, increasingly involves coordinated populations managed across settings, including zoos and sanctuaries, reintroduction sites, guided by shared data and joint planning. Framing this spectrum, I think, is critical. We all have a role to play in fostering this conceptual shift, not by dictating models, but by encouraging a more pluralistic and collaborative approach and understanding of what species recovery actually entails. And we'll achieve that by connecting all of the elements on this spectrum. The one plan approach at its core is about designing conservation strategies with the full landscape of shared expertise, available tools and populations in mind. And it can draw disparate efforts into a shared framework and encourages really deliberate allocation of effort. So we know that conservation is a human problem. It's not an animal problem or a plant problem or a fungi problem. We also know that the greatest threats to integrated species recovery are rarely ecological. More often than not, they're institutional. So under the one plan approach, instead of multiple parties unknowingly working at cross purposes or competing for the same funding, they can align their activities to reinforce one another. Imagine that, working together to save species rather than competing. So I invite you to consider the Centre for Species Survival Australasia not as a delivery agency, but as an enabling mechanism. Our contribution really lies in supporting teams to function effectively. That's recovery teams, stakeholder groups and others. So by providing support, removing hurdles, strengthening alliances, and providing secretariat support, facilitating access to expertise, in particular the specialist groups affiliated with the Species Survival Commission, and also offering neutral convening in complex planning contexts is really what we do. And two of our team members here, if you could put your hand up, I'm going to embarrass them, sorry. But perhaps most importantly, we help stakeholders see themselves as a part of a broader system where everyone's role is critical, but the true strength really lies in collaboration. And I think that's been clear from all of the presentations so far this morning. But this perspective shift from project-based conservation to more systems-based conservation is where long-term scalable success will begin. So back to the original question, what does it take to save a species? We're definitely not lacking in talent looking around the room. We've got the data, we've got the commitment. But unless those strengths are connected across institutions and jurisdictions and disciplines, their impact will stay limited. So the ACIUCN and the SSC network, including the Centre for Species Survival, are happy and can work alongside you to help deliver structured coordination processes across agencies and sectors, a one-plan approach. We can foster deliberate integration between in-situ and ex-situ approaches where it's necessary. And we can reduce duplication by promoting shared planning as well. So it'd be lovely to leave this symposium not only with new ideas and a hangover, but with renewed intent to collaborate across levels, to share generously, to work outside our church, and to build systems that match the scale of the challenge that we face. Thank you. Feel free to get in touch to explore how the centre can work with you to save species going forward. Thanks.